not the waking, it's the rising. It is the grounding of a foot uncompromising.
All right, so we are recording on Monday, July 1st, after what I thought was like a pretty, chill start of free agency. Paul George wasn't signing still, it was just like a little bit of random free agents here and there. Then the Mikal Bridges trade broke down, which we already discussed in our past video, but then yesterday and today, everything just started falling, and there's a lot of moves that we have to cover. But I think it's only fair to start with Paul George to the Sixers for the full max. Um, 4 year, 212 million. I mean, Paul George is 34. He is very old, but I think it's a great fit for the Sixers. I want to hit this from let's first do the Sixers perspective, and then let's talk a little bit about the Warriors missing on the sign and trade for him and the Clippers perspective. So, why don't you start by what do you think about this for Philly?
I think first things first, like PG to the 76ers, this makes them really and truly contenders. This is that third star that they have been looking for ever since Harden left. And I think, and if you ask me, he's better than Harden just because he doesn't need to be so ball dominant. He can be the third option that he's been looking for. I think, to be perfectly honest, this is a perfect situation. This is what Paul George has been looking for. We've talked about him saying that he doesn't really think he's like a first option anymore.
That was
So
crazy, dude. He said it in his
they ruined
podcast.
this man.
Oh my God.
But like, yeah, and so I think that's good. I think that in PG's mind, this is gonna be okay, this is Embiid's team. He's gonna show up. He's gonna be the like third option behind Maxi. I think in reality, it's gonna be more like a 1A, and then like depending on the night, it's Maxi PG. But that's like a whole other thing.
That makes
Um,
sense.
and so and so I think from a PG perspective, this is very good. I think from a Sixers perspective, they immediately have gotten way better in terms of getting rid of Tobias Harris, that zero of a player in fourth quarters. And they signed up Paul George, a guy who has basically been carrying the Clippers on his back for the past like 3, 4 years. Assuming Kawhi isn't playing, which he usually isn't. And so I think that this is pretty good on all fronts. Paul George wants to go to a place where he can contend, but he doesn't want to be the main guy. And in a weaker East, this immediately makes this team like easily top three contender in the East. I'm kind of unwilling to put them higher than that because I
I
think this
agree.
team lacks a little bit of depth. But at the same time, they do have enough star power in that first 3, 4 guys to contend with any 5 guys in the league.
Yeah, I think to be honest, there is risk involved because Paul George has been an injury-prone player the last couple of seasons. I mean, he had his terrible, terrible injury when he was playing for Team USA that he just fractured his leg. It's just a miracle that honestly that he's been able to play at this level. But for the Sixers, I think it's perfect. I think he, as you said, is that third star. So Paul George, first in Indiana, he was a first option. I mean, he honestly he gave LeBron like battles in the Eastern Conference, when he was like Miami versus the Pacers. I thought that was when I started watching basketball, like 2011, 2012. Um, and I love those teams, but then in the Clippers, second start to Kawhi Leonard, I thought he did really good, and I think he overachieved. Um, even taking the Clippers to the Western Conference Finals without Kawhi and then getting beat by the Suns. But that's the story of Paul George. It's just like he hasn't been able to be in a situation where he's not asked to be the number one. In OKC also, the first year it was Russell Westbrook, and then damn, Russell Westbrook doesn't really work as the number one option because that's a whole different other set of issues. But Paul George, he has this top three in MVP season, but he can't really break through, and he gets beat at the logo by Damian Lillard. I think as a third option, this is perfect. And it also fills a positional void. Philly needs forwards. I mean, if you want to compete against New York, who has OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, all these wings. Boston Celtics have Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and all like you need to have good wings. And even though Paul George is not as good defensively as he once was, like on the ball, he's still really good. And I mean, compared to Tobias Harris, like maybe Tobias Harris is like 5% better at defense. Paul George is better at literally everything else. Shooting. There were plays in the New York series where they were leaving this man Tobias Harris wide open, one catch away from the post from Embiid, and he was just breaking the threes. Believe me, if that's Paul George, even though Stephen A. Smith said that he can't catch and shoot, that man can catch and shoot. Like he's learned these past couple of years, and um, yeah, I think it's really well. I think they did do another couple of moves. They re-signed Kelly Oubre, which I thought was really good. I think he like had a really good season for the Sixers. He bet on himself. It was like a 2-year, 16 million deal, also, which is not a lot. They drafted that rookie that keeps posting TikToks, TikTok dances. You didn't see that, bro?
Oh, what?
He
You're gonna have to pull up a couple because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I'll show it to you after. But apparently he's a good shooter, but he's a rookie, so he's not really you can't really count on him. I do really like the Andre Drummond signing though, because as we know, Embiid is not going to play more than like 60 games in the regular season. I don't think so. And Drummond is a really good backup, like to get even starting minutes sometimes like that. But yeah, I like the move for the Sixers. I think the last 2 years of the contract are gonna look kind of iffy. He's gonna be 36 and 37. Oh, I mean, I don't know. Or like 37 and 38 in the playoffs. So let's see. Um, but let's talk about the Clippers a little bit because it feels like to me that they kind of played a game of chicken with Paul George. They were like, "Bro, you're not gonna sign. You're not gonna get another team to sign for 4 years, and the max." And he was like, "Yes, I am," and he did do it. So, I mean, I don't know. Like the Clippers, I understand that they don't want to be part of the second apron. I actually don't want to give them too much shit because Kawhi Leonard is the most unreliable superstar in the NBA. Like he was looking great last year in the regular season, and then out of nowhere, he only plays 2 games in the playoffs. Can't really go for the fourth playoff in a row. Um, and they did re-sign Harden. They're adding like other pieces and stuff. Um, they signed Derrick Jones Jr. from the Mavs. I thought that was a pretty good signing. They needed some point of attack defense, better defenders now that Paul George left. But I don't know. Would you have offered the 4-year, $200 million deal if you were the Clippers to Paul George?
Okay, so I think that question needs to have like a couple other like layers to it. Because number one, I don't resign Kawhi. That doesn't make sense to have a guy who is totally inconsistent and can't be there. But assuming that you have re-signed Kawhi, is it then worth it to sign Paul George? If you're if you're looking to contend for a championship, which is I think the point of this pairing in the like on the Clippers, then yes, if you think that they can contend for a championship together. If you don't think they can, then being in the second apron is a dumb move and it doesn't make any sense. So them losing Paul George for nothing, tough, it sucks, but at the same time, to be limited by the new CBA and being inside of the second apron would have been far worse. And so I think that makes sense, but I do want to, just do a quick spiel on the whole like Harden resign because like I don't know about you, but I've definitely done a 180 on him in the past couple of years with him like demanding trades nonstop to contenders. It's starting to get a little like old and not making any sense. Because like here's the thing, they lost PG, so they had to re-sign Harden for like 35 mil a year because
I think
without him, come on, bro, they had to re-sign him. Like
no,
he
no, no,
he
I
he
know,
kind of had
but
him by the balls.
I was just gonna say that a 2 year, 70 million contract for James Harden, I think is a good deal. Like, I don't think I think the Clippers are being real with themselves and they're being like, look, the only way that we're gonna win the championship is if Kawhi Leonard is healthy.
Need
That
a couple planes to crash too.
No, I mean, dude, like, let's be honest. The Clippers, when Kawhi Leonard was healthy last year, were one of the top three teams in the league. It was the Celtics, the Nuggets, and the Clippers all year. Then Dallas made their moves at the trade deadline, and then they arrived into that tier. And then when Minnesota beat Denver, people put them at that tier as well. But all year, the Clippers were like an actual championship contender because Kawhi Leonard was playing really good again. Like, let me look up his numbers from last year, but I think that what the Clippers are doing is smart. James Harden is a good regular season player. He's gonna put up like stats in the like at this point of his career. I'm one of the biggest James Harden fans in this community left because he doesn't have a lot of
100%.
fans. And I think at this point of his career, if you actually want to contend, he has to be your third best player. Second best player is too much for him. I think honestly, the Clippers last year, that's why they worked because James Harden was the third best player. Um, but in terms of this year, I mean, as I said, they re-signed or they signed Derrick Jones Jr. They also signed Batum from Philly. So they have good role players, and James Harden in theory um is good for the regular season, but it doesn't really matter if Kawhi Leonard is not healthy. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mind the Harden contract. I think 2 years is completely fine. The Kawhi one, though, I still don't understand it. I mean, Kawhi Leonard's agents, they deserve to get paid, bro, because this man played one good year of basketball after being absent for like the past 3 years, and he got 3 year, 150 million. Um, it's tough from the Clippers. I mean, I don't know. I think they're kind of stuck like these 2, 3 years. They're just gonna be a fun team that is gonna be like the fifth to eighth seed, depending on what happens with Kawhi Leonard's health, and they're gonna get eliminated in the first round of the playoffs. I don't see anything else for the Clippers in these next 2 to 3 years.
Yo, if I'm being honest with the whole Kawhi Leonard like re-signing conspiracy theory hat time, hear me out. I think remember all of those stories that came out about all of the like extra like weird stuff that Kawhi's like uncle or something was asking about um when basically Kawhi was like in free agency and looking for teams, and they're like, no, you can't do that. This is illegal. I think that the Clippers ended up doing, some of that, and that leads into, dude, look, here's the thing. If you guys want to keep having picks for the foreseeable future and you don't want this to leak to the like NBA media, we got to work something out here.
I mean, maybe, bro. I don't know. Maybe. It's I haven't even thought about that, but it's not as crazy as it seems. And shit like that happens in the real world. Like for people who think that out of 10 conspiracy theories, probably two are true. But the two that are true are true. It's like shit like this does happen.
Mm.
And it could also just be that he played a really good season and they were like copium in their mind and they were like, yes, this guy is back. Um,
Maybe. Who knows? I mean, we'll never know, but like I just think that that's the only way that like it makes sense to me from what seems to be a very competent front office, or maybe they're just gambling on Kawhi again. Who knows?
yeah, but okay, so let me go through. Oh yeah, I want to talk about KCP. I want to talk
Mhm.
about KCP leaving the Nuggets for a 3-year, $66 million contract to the Orlando Magic. So you, as being a Denver fan, you can take this one.
I hate Denver right now. I hate them so much. This is crazy, bro. It's just like I think that KCP was one of the more like consistent pieces that they had, and I know that he is a strong veteran presence in terms who has 2 championships under his belt. He's a solid 3-and-D guy. It's just from what I understand, I'm pretty sure that the Nuggets could have re-signed him, that they had a similar deal on the table, and for whatever reason, one of two things happened. He either straight up chose to leave, or Denver just wasn't willing to like sign him to that money. And I think that doesn't make any sense at all. Because after losing a player like Bruce Brown 2 years ago, and then to turn around and lose a player like KCP in free agency when they do have the space, when he has been one of their more consistent players over the past like 3 4 years, I think that's a poor decision, especially because Michael Porter Jr. is somehow still on the roster. I don't understand that at all whatsoever. It's just like I don't know who would want to take him after that poor showing in like the second round, but I think that getting rid of that committed money and freeing up that extra cap space is something that needs to happen if they're going to like grow as a contender. So for Denver, I don't like it. For Orlando, this is very good. They're getting closer to being contenders, if you ask me. Not
Dude,
quite, but it does look better.
I love it for Orlando, but let's stick with Denver for now. Look, I'm gonna go off on the Denver front office because they are being cheap motherfuckers again. Like
Yes.
okay, so they didn't re-sign Bruce Brown. I think they couldn't like really match the offer that was made from Toronto, but this is making me doubt that they even made a competitive offer at all because I think I listened to this in a podcast the other day that Denver has only paid the luxury tax like twice in their history with this ownership group. And I understand that if they signed KCP to a similar deal to what he signed with Orlando, they would be in the second apron. This is a fact. But look at the contending teams around the league. The Celtics are heading into the second apron, and they don't give a fuck because they're a championship team.
Mm.
OKC, what did they just do? They overpaid Isaiah Hartenstein because, I mean, we have to talk about that later, but because they're going at it and they're going to be a second apron team when they extend Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren in the future, but they know this is their time. Nikola Jokic is the reigning MVP, and you just lost in back-to-back years the best six man in the league and now one of the best starting two guards in the league, who is like the best 3-and-D guard in the league, dude. It's who who is better than him? What he does to a team, being that fifth starter, is so valuable. And now they're saying that Christian Brown is going to replace him. Bro, KCP has been a 40% three-point shooter the last 3 seasons. Christian Brown, I mean, I don't even know his percentages. Oh,
Whatever it
look,
is, it's laughably low. Like the
exactly.
idea that Christian Brown could replace him is like comical. Someone in that front office is smoking crack. That's like the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
dude. And as you said, if you're in the second apron, it's not like it's impossible to get off of the second apron. If you're a second apron team and then you see at the trade deadline, like, holy shit, this team is not working out, then just trade away KCP. You can trade him away for nothing, and it's the same thing. Just trade him away for a couple seconds. Trade Michael Porter Jr. away for whatever. It's like a filler contract if you want. Or I mean, of course not. Michael Porter Jr. would actually have value in the trade market, but I just don't know why you let go of the guy who has been like he's your perimeter like point of attack defender who also can shoot from three. Like now Denver is going to be so much easier to guard. If you don't have a knockdown three-point shooter, you just double Jokic and then leave that guy wide open. And Jokic is going to make the right pass. So I think Denver has to do something. I don't know what they do. Like the the narrative of them trusting their young guys to me doesn't make sense. Like if you trust your young guys to develop into the players that you think they will, then you re-sign KCP and then you just go into the second apron because if you believe in your young guys, then you don't have to make any transactions either way, right? If you believe in them, then
100%.
you're not looking elsewhere. So this narrative that they're trusting their young guys and that's why they're letting KCP leave is just not true. They're letting KCP leave because they're being cheap. They don't want to pay the tax, and that's the reality.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like probably an ownership thing, so I can't really blame the front office. But like, here's the thing. This is not something that comes out of the blue. I think that there are two decisions here, and I know that we don't really like want to talk about the draft. We'll save that for later. But they drafted a center. They didn't draft like another like guy who can shoot the three. What they did was draft a center to come in behind Nikola Jokic so that he can sit for a couple minutes a game, and they lose KCP in free agency. And that doesn't make sense from so many like different points of view because I think that in this offseason, the issue was that the role players were not doing their job. I know that I hung a lot of that on the neck of like Michael Porter Jr., but at the same time, there just wasn't enough production. And who's going to replace that production? It's not going to be Braun. It's arguably maybe going to be Michael Porter Jr., but that's a gamble because at this point, it's 2 years in a row that he's been flaky in the offseason. And so, what is their plan here? I don't know what it is, but it's not looking good. And maybe the
Yeah.
flexibility that they get from keeping themselves out of the second apron, it like does something, but it's not looking good right now. And I'm extremely frustrated as a Denver Nuggets fan.
Yeah, I mean, if they're planning to like pair Michael Porter Jr. with these young players and get like a star back or like a not it's just you don't need a star. That's the thing. The Nuggets had the perfect formula around Jokic. You have Jokic, you have Jamal Murray, KCP. In each case, Michael Porter Jr. was the odd man out, not KCP. So KCP is 32. It's not like he's 35. He has 3 to 4 good years left in him. Um, and he's also a durable player. We saw him in the playoffs last year. He literally got injured and kept playing because that's KCP. Like he's a warrior. He's a proven champion. The Lakers regretted it when they let him go and when they traded him for Russell Westbrook. Now Denver is gonna regret him. Is gonna regret letting him go too. But let's move on to Orlando because I love this move, bro. They overpay him a little bit, let's be honest. I would say KCP is worth like 18 mil, not 22, but it's not that much. And Orlando has the cap space. They were clearly not interested in Paul George, which I like. You already have Franz and Paulo. You have your two big playmaking forwards. You don't really need another one. What you do need is a guy who can knock down threes because in their series against the Cavs, no one could shoot a three for the fucking life, bro. Like they were air balls, like just back. It was disgusting. And so now you have Jalen Suggs, who has improved from three every year, and then you add KCP, and everyone's gonna say like, oh, they don't really have a point guard. The Celtics don't really have like a point guard like that. Like they don't have like a Chris Paul. Like Jalen Suggs is a good enough ball handler so that he can be in the one, and KCP is a good enough ball handler so that they're just secondary ball handlers. Your primaries are the two playmaking forwards, Franz and Paulo, and they like what I love about this is that they get a free agent that fills one of their needs, that is 3-point shooting, without letting go of their identity, which is defense. I think this team could be ranked number one on defense next year.
Ooh, that's tough. Honestly, look, I can't really add much more to what you were saying. This is definitely a young team that's still growing, and KCP does fill in the holes in the roster that they were looking for. Honestly, in this free agency, I don't know what it was, but I think that considering how much cap space that the Orlando Magic have, and them being linked to a lot of the like big name free agents this year, the Paul George that they ended up being apparently not interested in
Klay Thompson.
KCP, yeah, the Klay Thompson. I was thinking that maybe there was some high tier like collusion going on it, and that there's going to be a super team there like 3 years from now. But I do like the direction that they're going and trusting the guys that they have and just giving them time to develop and building around them pretty good. I think that's nice, that's solid, and you can't go wrong with like this like slow burn type of play.
Yeah, bro. And they had Gary Harris at that position last year, which by the way, they re-signed for a really cheap contract. I don't know. I think it was like a 10-year or 10 million 2-year contract or like 14 million 2-year contract. So pretty cheap contract. And now he's coming off the bench. Now you brought a replacement for Gary Harris, and it's not even that you lost Gary Harris. He's just coming off the bench. And they still have Jonathan Isaac, one of my favorite players in the league. Um, to watch defensively, he is like, if like the other day I was thinking about this, if I had to pick one player in the entire league to get a stop against any type of player, a center, a forward, or a guard, I'm picking Jonathan Isaac. I think he's the best defender in the league, straight up. Maybe Anthony Davis or Giannis, but I think that dude is the best defender in the league. So yeah, I like Orlando. I really like them this year. They definitely needed that championship experience guy, the vet that can also shoot and defend. So I love this. But let's move on to Hartenstein because OKC, bro. I think they are winning free agency along with Dallas. We're gonna talk about Dallas after, but so okay, so Hartenstein commands a very big contract. He goes for I think it was like a 3-year
80
eight,
mil.
it was 87 million or something like that.
Yeah.
So talk to me. What do you think about this?
I think that this is another amazing move from the like OKC front office. I think that they're really filling out this roster. They saw what worked and what didn't. They needed, to be perfectly honest, like some more on man defenders to throw at people like Luca and whatnot. And they also needed just a nice like big center. But Hardenstein is also a good addition because he's not just a body out there who is just like out there to disrupt shots and whatnot. He can also play make on the offensive end. And so he's not stuck just like trying to get a pass because like to be perfectly honest, he doesn't have a ton of post moves. I know that like he does, but I would prefer to see him develop a bit more of his playmaking because I think that that's something that can be
Yeah.
really special.
But
And
he got that push shot, bro. The push shot that's unstoppable. Like he gets in the lane and he's just unstoppable.
that's true. But like I think that the main thing that this does, I think that this makes Alex Caruso come off the bench, which is an amazing six man, which is like crazy. Um, or maybe Isaiah Hartenstein comes off the bench. I know that they paid a lot for him, but at the same time, like,
I don't know. I
uh,
think he's their second highest paid player in their team. They're paying
mhm,
him 30 million a year. Holy shit, he's 26 years old, bro.
really?
I thought he was much older.
No.
And I'm just
Okay,
seeing
dang,
his
that's crazy.
contract, and it's a descending contract. It's such a smart move by OKC. They have more cap this year because the rookie extensions are not going to kick in until later. So they're making a descending contract, which just means that it's more right. It's going to be 30.5 million this year. The last year it's going to be 27 million, which I really
Okay.
like. But yeah, I think the starting lineup is going to be Shea, J-Dub, Chet, Ludort, and Hartenstein. And then the bench is Caruso, Isaiah Joe, Aaron Wiggins, Cason Wallace, the Jay Will, the other Jalen Williams,
Uh-huh.
Ken Rich. Dude, I mean this OKC team is stacked, bro.
It's
Like
crazy, man.
I think they're gonna be the number one seed in the West by far. I think they're gonna win like the West pretty easily.
Oh, easy. They're basically running it back with the same team, except they offloaded Giddy for Alex Caruso and obtained hard to sign. This is crazy.
And they were
People
the
are
number
getting
one seed,
fleeced.
bro.
This
And they
is
did
what you
this.
want out of like a very good season.
All right, but like this is the crazy part. They did this without moving a single first round pick, bro. A single, like, not even in the Caruso trade. I can't believe the Bulls didn't get a first round pick in hindsight. Like, it's insane. Um, but yeah, I mean, honestly, who would you pick in a series if the Celtics and the OKC face tomorrow in the finals? I would pick OKC, bro. I think they're the best team in the
That's
league.
tough. I think I oh, I think it really does depend. A healthy Kristaps Porzingis, and I think it easily goes to 7. I don't think it's easily OKC. I want to give the edge to the reigning championship Celtics, but like it's very close.
Yeah, I think Shea is the best player in that series, and that's why I give the nod to OKC, but maybe they're 1 year too young. I don't think they win the chip next year, but I think they're gonna be a crazy team, um, especially in the regular season. I don't know how Chet and J-Dub are gonna do in the playoffs because this year they were pretty underwhelming.
Mhm.
But Shea was a fucking star in the playoffs, bro. Like that game, that last game where he fouled like what's his name? PJ Washington. He was going crazy down the clutch of that and just the entire series. He was actually really good. So as a Wolves fan, I'm scared of this team. Like they
The league
just
should be scared of
fixed
this team.
the one weakness that they had, which was rebounding and center depth. And they added
Yeah.
Caruso for good measure. Just as a little sprinkle right there.
Yeah, just to make sure that there are no questions about who's top dog around here in the West.
Yeah, insane. But all right, so let's keep going. All right, let's talk about the Dejounte Murray trade to the Pelicans. Do you have any initial reactions on that, or do you want me to go first?
I like you to go first because my initial reaction is mostly going to be from the viewpoint of a guy who lives in Atlanta and is sad that they continue to run it back with Trey Young. But go ahead and talk about the Pelicans.
I think I think for the Pelicans, it's a good move. Um, I think they get a point guard, which they desperately needed. They were running CJ McCollum at the point guard. That's just not it. Um, DeJounte Murray did grow as a catch and shoot player in Atlanta, even if it wasn't that much. He learned a little bit for that. I really like the fit for New Orleans. I think it's interesting what their starting lineup is going to be. I would start CJ, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion Williamson, insert center here, right? So
Mhm.
who does that leave as the odd man out? CJ McCollum and BI. I would shop those two around, and whoever can get me the best center, maybe even combine them for a really good center. Like there is a case out there for Brandon Ingram to the Cavs and Jared Allen to the Pelicans, and then the Pelicans have to attach more assets to that. But
Ooh.
I would love that deal. Honestly, for both sides, like the Cavs need a
Mm.
scoring wing too. And Brandon Ingram, I think, is getting a little bit disrespected out here just because he played injured in the playoffs and he played terrible against OKC. But I like DeJounte Murray to the Pelicans. I think they like the two first round picks and Dyson Daniels. I like Dyson Daniels for Atlanta a lot, actually. We can talk about that in the Atlanta side, but um yeah, I mean, I think it was decent. I'm waiting to see what their next move is going to be because if they don't get a quality center, I just don't see them contending in the West when you have Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, Hartenstein and Chet, you have Jokic, um, you have Gafford and Lively. Like the top teams in the West have really good centers. So I mean, they have to go for someone.
Yeah, it's just I don't know like where that's gonna come from. I think that I think that there's a couple options. I just think that they didn't really need a Dejounte Murray. I know that yes, they weren't really running with a true like point guard, but I think that wasn't their real weakness. I think Zion's injury kind of like made the first round a lot like uglier than it should have been, and the whole like lack of a center thing, I think that that was something that hurt them. But they're just gonna have to go back to the drawing board, and I don't know, just hope that Zion doesn't get injured. I think that that's the main thing for this team, maintaining what they have. And I like the idea of shopping around a Brandon Ingram, a CJ McCollum, but it depends on what they get back. Because I'm worried that it could just be a lateral move. You know what I mean? Or maybe all they get back is a couple picks.
Yeah, I think you definitely don't want to trade Ingram if it's not for a quality center. I think Ingram is a really good player still. Um, so you don't want to trade him for nothing, even if it's an awkward fit. So let's go into a little bit of what we were talking about before this call because this is a really interesting thing. The Pelicans, their most played lineup with 424 minutes this year had a net rating of -1, which is so interesting. And it was their starting lineup of Valanciunas, McCollum, BI, Williamson, or Zion, and Herb Jones. I just, um, I don't know, it's weird. And then their second most played lineup is their starting lineup, but with Larry Nance instead of Jonas Valanciunas. And their net rating is even worse. It's -4. So their two most used lineups were a negative net rating. And then you have four lineups here in a row that are +15, +15, +20, +30 in 108 minutes, 100 minutes, 89 minutes. So it's like it's their fifth, sixth, and seventh most used lineup in the season. And all of them include the combination of Herb Jones and Trey Murphy. Some of them include Zion, others of them include Brandon Ingram, but I think the point I'm getting at here is that you need those two dudes in the court. Like Herb Jones and Trey Murphy, who is a flamethrower from three, plus Zion is amazing. That trio right there, that's your core. Then you add DeJounte Murray, that's your fourth guy. Like that's why I think if CJ comes off the bench as a six man, I think this team is gonna be amazing, bro. Like they just need to find that center for Ingram, and I can actually see this team going good. In terms of Zion, a lot of people criticize his love for the game, his conditioning. At the end of this year, that dude was like in really good condition. He did not look overweight at all. He looked strong and explosive as fuck. He was going for 40 on the Lakers' head, which is said to be like one of his worst matchups because they embarrassed him in the in-season tournament, LeBron and AD. So I mean, it's the same every year. Like I'm excited for the Pelicans every year because I love Zion's game. But I think they're like taking steps in the right direction with this trade. But what do you think about the Hawks?
Okay, so the thing is with the Hawks, and we've discussed this before, because I remember there being talks about DeJounte Murray to the Lakers, and I don't remember if this was simply like DeJounte Murray fever or if they were like shopping him, but I think that they could have gotten better for DeJounte Murray, and it makes sense that they would pounce on this trade in the way that they did. But the core issue, like I said earlier, is that I just don't think Trae Young is a guy that the Hawks have effectively built around. And I think that we're at a point to where they've kind of got to start thinking about what they're going to do about rebuilding. And here's the worst part. Who is going to trade for Trae Young? Because they're not going to trade for Trae Young at a franchise level player type deal. They're not going to trade for Trae Young as like a second option. Trae Young is like in this league a third option. He's a guy who shoots very well. but ultimately in a one-on-one defense scenario, he needs to be surrounded by good players. It's just a sizing issue, and there's nothing that he can do about that. But ultimately, I don't think that they're going to get back the return that they're looking for or that they want. And so they're kind of stuck running it back, or at least they feel like they're kind of stuck running it back.
Well,
But
they kind
I
of
feel like
are.
there's no shame.
Like Trey Young, I don't know. I'm like it's mixed feelings with Trey Young because we've discussed that I think he has to be the number two in a truly championship contention team. But you just don't want to tank if you're the Hawks right now because the Spurs own your pick next year. The Spurs own your pick in 2026, the swap, and the Spurs own your pick in 2027. So the only way that you really trade for Trey Young is if the Spurs are trading for Trey Young.
How did this
And
happen? How did they allow this?
well, with the Dejounte Murray trade.
I forgot. Oh my God, that's crazy.
So if the Spurs want to trade for Trey Young, which I actually think would be a really good fit for the Spurs, let's see how it goes with Chris Paul this year. Um, I think, yeah, like why would you why would you trade Trey Young and start a rebuild if you don't even have your own picks? If you want to build around Trey, the only way that I see this working is like a 2001 Philly Allen Iverson type vibe where Trey Young can be a functional offensive engine even in the playoffs. We've seen it countless times. He does not choke in the playoffs. He took a mediocre team to the Eastern Conference Finals. He took two games from the Celtics in 2023. He hit a game winner on them from half court. He's hit a game winner on the Knicks. He's a really good player. And with Reece as their draft pick, we can talk about him because we're talking Atlanta. He's a really versatile defensive forward who can apparently knock down a lot of threes. Um, Now you get Dyson Daniels, who is a really good point of attack defender. Larry Nance, good backup big defender. You have DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Johnson. You have all these dudes who can defend. I mean, I kind of like the direction they're going with, to be honest, for now. Uh, if they do decide to trade Trey to the Spurs, I like it. If they don't, then just, I mean, what do you want me to say, bro?
I mean, no, I think we both agree that they're in like kind of a crap place. There's a couple options that like they could go with, but like none of them are ideal, is what I will say. And they do have a very orientated team right now. They just gotta see about coaching in a way that they can, how do I word this in the best way? Just hide this man on defense. Like put him somewhere near the basket, not on the perimeter, like basically what they do with Luca. And if he gets pulled out to the like perimeter or something, let it be. You got to live and die on that hill. He's your franchise player right now.
Yeah. And one last point that I forgot to mention in the Pelicans breakdown. One specific need that the Pelicans, that Dejounte Murray also brings to the table that the Pelicans didn't have is a guy who is clutch. Because the Pelicans, there was a crazy stat, something like they were 0-20 entering the fourth without a lead. So if they were entering the fourth without a lead, that game was done. Because Zion is like Giannis, like AD, like these type of players in the clutch are not, you can scheme against them in the way that sometimes a pull-up mid-ranger is the best that you can get in the clutch. And as we saw, I mean, DeJounte Murray hit a crazy amount of clutch shots this season, and I think last season too. So just real quick by that. But do you want to discuss the Chris Paul to the Spurs move? Because I love it, bro. It's a 1 year, $11 million contract, and I just think it's so nice to see like this aging legend pair with like the future guy who could have the potential to be the greatest basketball player of all time. I mean, I think it's
Oh my God.
cool.
Yeah, it's just the potential to be the greatest basketball player of all time is a crazy way to think
You
of this
don't
man
think
right now.
so?
Dude, I think he looks good. I just don't want to saddle him with a bunch of expectations that, to be perfectly honest, 99% of people are never going to live up to. But that's a different conversation for a different day. It's just you set up the you said Chris Paul's name, and in my head, we were finally going to talk about the Warriors and how they have fumbled the franchise. But okay,
We
let's
can
talk
talk
about the
about that. We can
Spurs.
talk about that.
No, no, no. Let's save that for last because to be perfectly honest, I have a couple of like opinions, and I suspect the Spurs is going to be the last thing that we talk about before we actually get to the Warriors. So, dude, honestly, I love Chris Paul to the Spurs. I think that this is a job that he has done before, which is come into a young team, promising with promising talent, a la OKC,
Mhm.
and just kind of like show them the reins, take care of what he's good at doing, and just put them in positions to where they are th- they can succeed at. And I think Wemby and I think a big thing about Wemby that we were seeing this year is that he just wasn't getting the ball for whatever reason. The
Yeah,
Spurs just
bro.
collectively decided not to pass this man the ball,
It was
not to set him
ridiculous.
up. Yeah, like the dude is basically an alley-oop from the free throw line, and it just wasn't happening.
Oh my God. Like missing Wemby under it was like you could see. I mean, I don't want to go too deep into the net rating stuff because we already did it for the Pelicans, but when Wemby and Trey Jones were on the court, they had a positive net rating. For a team that won 20 games, that is an accomplishment, bro. And what that is telling you, and what we're gonna see this year, is that if you have a guy who is like a traditional point guard and you have Wemby, that's just like right there, that's a good foundation. Just like it doesn't matter what else you have around them. That's the complementary pieces, but those are like the foundational pieces.
Yeah, 100%. And so that's why I think that this is a great move from the Spurs. I think that Chris Paul, how do I word this? I think that Chris Paul is in his like twilight years. He's like on his way out of the league, maybe to retirement, maybe to Shanghai, who knows? But this is like his last little like hurrah, if like you ask me. And I think to go out, mentoring a guy like Wemby, I think that there's really not much more that you could like ask for. I think it sucks because it means Chris Paul is going to retire without any rings. What are you going to do? It'd be that way.
You never know,
And
bro. You never know
um
with Wemby.
I'm I'm comfortable on the parlay that is Chris Paul does not get a championship next to Wemby,
Bro,
but
imagine if
crazier
Wemby
things have
goes
happened.
nuclear, like not this year, but the ne year after that, and he wins the championship.
Oh, Wemby's the new Michael Jordan, bro. Straight up, no offense or buts about it.
Oh my God. I mean, we were talking about this the other day. The final year of Wemby's of like the final game of Wemby's year was him dropping 34 and 12 on the reigning champ, the Denver Nuggets, to knock them out of the one seed, bro. Like that's how
It's
crazy this guy
crazy.
is. Um,
That
so
one game shifted the entire balance of the playoffs. Like how the bracket looks. It's crazy that we could have gotten a completely different bracket had Wemby just gone, this game doesn't matter to me and not balled out.
dude,
It's
I
crazy.
like I love that guy. I'm so excited to see the Olympics. They don't have a three defensive second violation rule, and France has Rudy Gobert and Wemby. So I want to see that rim protection. I want to see anyone try to go inside against Gobert and Wemby
Or they're
at
just
the
gonna live
rim.
in the paint. That they're gonna show up with sleeping bags and like pillows.
Exactly. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Warriors because we kind of mentioned them earlier. We didn't talk about them.
Mhm.
They fumble. Well, first of all, they have this $30 million CP3 piece. That I mean, a lot of people would want that, right? Like an expiring contract is still a valuable thing in the NBA, but they couldn't find an NBA, they couldn't find a trade partner, not even for like a second like rounder. I don't understand, but so they waive CP3. It's a negative, like they don't get anything from that asset. Then they're involved in the Paul George sweepstakes, but they don't get him. And then they lose Klay Thompson for nothing. And Klay Thompson's deal is a 3-year, $50 million deal. Which is not a lot for Klay Thompson. But yeah, what are the Warriors doing, man? I mean, I know you want to talk about them, so
Okay, so this, I know that we're talking about this free agency, but it has to be kind of prefaced with like what has happened in years past. So first things first, I think it goes back to this Jordan Poole for Chris Paul trade, which I know they have to make because Jordan Poole really wasn't playing anymore because, Draymond Green punched the rings out of him. But like, what are you gonna do? That's a business decision. You betting on Draymond Green instead of like Jordan Poole. So like that's like one thing. You take on Chris Paul, who you think he's going to help this team and be a quality player. He ends up basically coming off of the bench. So that is an iffy trade from the beginning that has set them back and that they've been trying to deal with this year. Number two, Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins played good for about a year and he has regressed significantly. He is another guy who is getting paid lots of money and he just isn't getting the return. I don't know. Maybe you count it as a return on that like 2022 championship against the Celtics, but that is not it right now. But for the most part, that brings us to 2 years in which they have really not capitalized on the core of Draymond, Curry, and Klay. And I know that Klay is not the player that he once was, but he also doesn't necessarily need to be the third option. You can figure out other guys. I think that they had draft picks. They chose to draft a Wiseman instead of, flipping it for a quality role player or a third star. I think that these are the little things, choosing to instead of find quality proven guys that are already in the league, and they did it too late when they traded for Chris Paul. They should not have drafted James Wiseman. I think that they could have gotten pretty good players, and they were just for whatever reason in the mindset that they could have drafted a guy and that he could have immediately like gotten an impact. And so for that brings us basically to this whole Chris Paul PG losing Klay. So Klay goes to the Mavericks in a what is it, a sign and trade or something like
yeah, a
that?
sign and trade. The Warriors get 2 second-round picks.
Yeah, which is
Basically
basically
nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Basically nothing for Klay Thompson. And I feel like he did him a kind of a favor with the sign and trade, or maybe it's like some weird like CBA stuff. But this is not amazing. They have basically fumbled on Klay Thompson and they got 2 second round picks for him. That's effectively nothing. And I think that he's going to turn out to be worth a lot more than that to the Mavericks
I
than he
agree.
was to the Warriors. And this has nothing to do with Klay Thompson not being a good player. He's not as good as he once was. This is an issue of not building a good team around the core that they had. And they
Dude,
somehow managed to alienate him in such a way that he just didn't want to stay there anymore. I'm not sure what that was about. Oh, wait, I do know what that was about. That was about saying we can't pay you and then putting together a max contract for PG who didn't end up going there. So they burned that bridge. But yeah, what were you about to say? Sorry, I
yeah,
just needed
it's
to get that
like
little
I
bit
mean,
out.
bro, like I love Draymond Green as a player, as a person and analyst. I think he has a lot of flaws, but I think so. You gave Draymond Green a 4-year, $100 million contract. That happened last offseason. So Draymond Green punches Jordan Poole, basically makes your guy who was a six-man of the year candidate the year before. He helped you win the 2022 championship as a six man. He was a really important player for that Warriors team, even starting for Steph Curry in the first round. I don't know if a lot of people remember that, but he was a promising young player. He was a really good shooter and a really good and he had speed. But then Draymond Green punches him. This guy loses all of his confidence. Then you have to trade in for fucking Chris Paul, who was 38 at that point. I still think that Chris Paul played well enough last year, but they didn't even make the playoffs. Like they didn't make the playoffs. And now you're grabbing that team that did not make the playoffs, and you are subtracting Chris Paul, who was the leader of your bench, and you're subtracting Klay Thompson, who averaged 18 points per game on 39% three-point shooting. So on 10 attempts a game or 8 attempts a game. Klay Thompson can still shoot that thing, bro. Like he had like 39% from three on massive volume, and like we know Klay Thompson's like shot selection. Like he shoots like some of those like contested threes that just go in for no reason. So I don't I'm like I mean the Warriors, what are they expecting? If I was Steph Curry, bro, I would ask for a trade. Like what is this team around me? It's Kuminga, a guy who has a lot of talent, but is like a raw young player. You have like Pods, who is a rookie. You have Draymond Green, who is choking out Rudy Gobert and like missing half of the season because he goes to like anger management therapy. It's a shit show, bro. Like what is going on with the Warriors? Like there are, I mean, in true like historic fashion, as a lot of like dynasties before them, they are like imploding right now.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And like you brought up the Draymond like problems and so basically what I'm trying to do is like lay the groundwork for the front office is making strange decisions and not capitalizing on the core that they have, which you brought up the Draymond Green thing, and it reminded me. Draymond Green cost them Jordan Poole, right? So like that's a basically like clear like line of causality there. Draymond Green also cost them KD. He like
Exactly.
it's just like I think that I think that after he cost them like KD, I would be like, okay, that's just like an outburst, blah blah blah, whatever. He punches Jordan Poole and they continue to keep him around. Like these are the decisions of a franchise that just like doesn't make sense to me because it's not even like we're getting to a point where Draymond Green is irreplaceable. We're getting to a point to where we have to sit here and go, okay, is he really worth what he is costing us seemingly on a like every couple of year basis? He just has to go off on a teammate of his. Is like, is
Yeah.
that worth it? Why do they keep him around? Why do they give him another 4 year contract? Can they find someone else to do the work that he is doing, which is, admittedly very important. I wasn't sold on him until like 2, 3 years ago, and then I was like, okay, maybe. But like another core point here is just like weird front office decisions. And when they offered PG this max contract, they effectively burned the bridge with Klay Thompson. He's gone. No chance he's staying. PG is gone. They put all of their chips in that basket. And basically, Klay Thompson, who is still a very good player, is gone. They do not end up getting Paul George. And it just I feel like the only thing that they can really do now, there are two decisions to make, and it is a money fan point of view. It is a keep Curry around, keep those jersey sales, or just like, from a guy who loves basketball, send him somewhere where he can contend. Curry has no reason to want to be there anymore. We know he still has it in him to compete for a championship, but it is not happening here on this Warriors team.
Yeah, dude. And if I'm Klay Thompson, I'm like, you extended Draymond Green and you're not extending me? Like, you're offered him 4 years and you're offering me 2 years, bro? Like, fuck off. Like it's reported that Klay Thompson literally took less money for Dallas because he was just being petty, bro. He was like, you know what? Fuck you. Like, and also because of the state taxes and stuff, like the California taxes are much higher than Texas. I think Texas has like close to zero for these type of
No state
deals.
income tax in Texas.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think what Clay is doing is hilarious, to be honest, because Dallas is a really good team right now. They have Kyrie, Luca, and Clay. They lost Derrick Jones Jr., which was one of their best defenders, but one of their worst offensive players. And they brought back Najee Marshall from the Pelicans. I'm not sure if you even know who that guy is. He is like the eighth man for the Pelicans. I love that dude, bro. He is one of those weird role players that can do everything. He's a good passer. He's a good defender. He's a decent three-point shooter. He got basically the same contract that Derrick Jones got. I think that's a good replacement. Then you trade then you salary dump Tim Hardaway Jr. and get back Quentin Grimes, who is like a developing young wing. But yeah, it's like just getting rid of Tim Hardaway Jr. and not having Jason Kidd have the temptation of playing him is already a positive. And then on top of those two gets, you get Klay Thompson for 3 years, $50 million, bro. That is an insane pay cut from Klay. And I think that is great value. And I also think that it is something that Dallas need. Dallas needs more movement. Dallas needs more shooting. Dallas needs less predictability in their offense, and that's exactly what Klay is a fucking like it's just a chaos right there and just shoot from three, come off screens. I really like the fit for Dallas.
Yeah, 100%. This was the main 100% what is happening here with this team. Role players aren't doing their job. Klay Thompson is going to show up to work. Um, and they also, I cannot tell you how happy I am that that they traded away Tim Hardaway Jr. Like, I don't know what else to say about it. I've been ranting about this man for like, it feels like years. I've been watching Tim Hardaway Jr. take like bad threes for the Mavericks, but that's neither here nor there. I think that this is a huge upgrade just from the Mavericks' point of view, and they are a lot better next year. The West just keeps getting crazy, man, and I'm not sure what to do about it. But as a fan, I love it. We're we're looking at more parity in the league, and I love it. I love it all the way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it for now. There are other small signings out there, but I don't think it's worth like having a full. There's a lot of extensions. I guess Cade Cunningham got extended, Tyrese Maxey, Tatum got extended for 5 years, $315 million.
Is he the highest paid guy in the league right now? That's a
He is.
crazy number.
He
Oh
is.
my
It's the
God.
largest contract in NBA history, and the second largest contract is Jaylen Brown. Um, and Derek White got extended for a 4 year, $125 million. So yeah, the Celtics are paying their guys and they deserve it, bro. They have the best starting five in the league, I think. Even if I said OKC is the best team in the league, I think probably the Celtics are number one, OKC number two. Um, but yeah, I think it was a really impactful day of free agency, to be honest.
Oh yeah. First day always is. And now we get to see I'm just so excited to see what happens with the Lakers because I'm so excited to trash them on whatever they end up doing.
Dude, the
I'm
Lakers, Milwaukee, and Miami are big losers of the offseason for now. I think what the Lakers haven't done anything.
mm,
Miami has literally done nothing. Milwaukee got DeLon Wright, which I think is a good point of attack defender, and they got him for close to the minimum for like 3 million. So I like
yeah.
that, but Milwaukee has to do something.
I think the I think the Lakers are gonna struggle like convincing anyone to like come and straight up sign in free agency. I don't know. They might be able to pull off some like crazy trade, but they're really low on assets right now, and I would be very weary of letting go of, Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, trade D'Lo to whoever, but like they're just really scraping the bottom of the barrel in terms of getting the pieces that they needed. And their best shot was really the whole you want to come to LA, you want to play with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And I don't know. I feel like I've talked to you about this before, but I'm not saying that drafting Bronny James is like bad because I straight up like don't want to see them play together. I think it's really cool. I think it makes sense. But I think if I'm like a player sitting there, I have to sit there and go, okay, are we here to win or is this like LeBron James playing 2K here?
I mean, bro, it's like Giannis getting Thanasis on his team. It's like whatever.
No, it's
It's the
not.
same thing,
It's not
bro.
the same thing at all. Dude,
Thanasis
it's not. Like
sucks at
objectively.
basketball.
Yeah, but Thanasis was drafted like the year before Giannis was there. Like Bronny has exclusively only been drafted because he's LeBron James's
No, I know,
son.
but the only reason why Thanasis still has a roster spot
Hmm.
is because of Giannis. And if Bronny James gets minutes and he sucks balls, that's a different conversation. But if he's just riding the bench, then whatever, bro. Let LeBron James have his son right there. I mean, he deserves it. He's like the first or best or second best player in the history of the game, and
Hmm.
he's 40 years old. Um,
That's fair. It's just the ultimate point that I was getting at is whether this is like dedication to competing for a championship, or is this like LeBron James riding off into the sunset in
well,
the sunset for like last 3 years,
I
you know?
LeBron James, there was a report, and this is maybe because LeBron James is the PR god, but there was a report that said that he was willing to take a pay cut for Klay Thompson and or for KCP or for Valanciunas randomly. Um, and none of those guys signed with the Lakers, so I think now LeBron James is gonna say like, "Fuck it, bro. The front office couldn't sign any of my guys. Like, I'm just gonna get my full
Hey,
max."
me.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
But
I think
yeah,
that makes sense.
I mean, I like JJ as the coach. We've already discussed that, but I yeah, I think last random thought that I have here, if I'm coming back to the Warriors, if I'm Steph Curry and I'm Miami, I would try to get Steph Curry to Miami. Like it would be perfect,
Steph
bro.
Curry to Miami. No.
If
Um,
Miami can somehow pull that shit, trading everyone, literally everyone except Butler and Adebayo, and trade all their picks, I don't care, for Steph Curry, bro, that trio, that's something that I
dude,
would like.
I really and truly think that if the Warriors can do this right in terms of like just being like, yo, Steph, we're done here. Um, so you can play off your next like 5, 6 years in whatever fashion you want, or we could trade you away. And like, if they do it right, they're looking at one of the like craziest rebuilds in like a while. Because who doesn't trade everything for Steph Curry? Like,
Exactly.
legitimately.
Exactly, bro. Any team that needs a guard would go for it. Doesn't matter if Steph is getting older. Um, the last piece is Lowry marketing, but I think we can just save that to when if he actually gets traded.
Yeah.
But there are rumors that Utah wants to trade him, but we can leave that for later.
Yeah, and
Um,
Cleveland has to hurry up and figure out what the fuck they're doing. Cause like I need this information. They've been sitting on this forever, and I feel like the whole like building around like Donovan Mitchell for the future, it starts to look less and less likely the longer that they wait to like actually do that building around him. Because free agency has to be an aspect here. Maybe they're just banking on being able to trade not Gafford, you know the guy?
Garland,
No, the other like
Mobley.
guard.
Oh, oh,
No, guard.
yeah, yeah.
Garland. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
Garland. Yeah,
tripping. Yeah. Maybe they're banking on being able to get something for Garland, but I feel like they're dragging their feet here. And between like the 76ers signing and um and the Orlando Magic signing, they're kind of falling behind here, and
and
they
the
weren't
Knicks
already. Oh, the Knicks. No, the Cavs are shafted. It's over.
and the Pacers. The
Oh my
Pacers
God.
extended Siakam.
They're barely gonna make it to the play-in tournament. This is crazy.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I think that's it.
It's not the waking, it's the rising. It is the grounding of a foot on